Well, hello, folks. Hello, folks. We excuse the early start, but me and Alphonse uh, misconstrued. We got
We
we got the
can't
time.
tell time.
Yeah, we can't tell time. He said 6 o'clock. He meant 5 o'clock. He's Eastern. I'm Central. So, but glad to have you back, brother Alphonse.
Good to be here, my man.
And what we're going to do today is an introduction. Not really an introduction, but this will help everybody understand the path forward through these kangaroo courts, these municipal corporations exercising interest or ownership in your property. And what I'll do is I'll read from a few landmark cases like Newark Fire Insurance versus the State Board. We'll read from property law and things of that nature of American jurisprudence, and we'll move forward to so people can grasp the concepts that we continue to lay down. And Alphonse has a lot on property. He's been digging into property taxes for 2 years. And then I'll throw my 2 cents in too for those of you that are having issues with IRS. And I'll open the floor to you, Alphonse. Welcome back.
Hey, it's good to be here. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. The more you learn about this stuff, you really start to get offended when you understand what they're doing to people. It's such a shame of what they're doing. You have these municipalities that are basically claiming that they're acting for the state, that the state has given them these directives to take these actions. When the bottom line is the state's making no claim against you whatsoever, basically. Hold on a sec. Dog, hold on. The state's not making any claims against you whatsoever. It's you. It's the municipality that's making a claim that they're tasked with collecting taxes from you, which they are not tasked to collect taxes from you. So it's what'd you pull up there?
I'm just getting everything set up for us to look at. You can go ahead and keep going, buddy. Don't worry about it.
No problem. So it's going down basically. Here's how it works. It's no more complicated than this. You have a right to own property. You have a right to acquire, possess, and protect property. That's right there in your state constitution. So then now we need to ask this question. Can a right be taxed? No. I mean, can they tax your right to speech? No. Can they tax your right to own property? No. So then how can they tax the value of your property? How exactly does that work? How can you tax the value of the right? You can't. And to bring it down to its simplest element, to give you an overview of how this works, when you apply for a license with the state, you create what's called a situs with the state. It's a nexus between you and your property, because what the state's going to say is, hey, you've got this business license. You're exercising this privilege that we're providing you. So we're going to charge you an excise tax on the privilege of doing that business, and we're going to charge you a property tax for using your property to conduct that privilege of doing that business. That's exactly what a property tax is. It's using your property in a commercial business, basically. And obviously, none of us are doing that. I mean, rarely any of us are doing that. And that's why when you see the statutes that are written, they're written for persons. You read what a person is. When you read a definition of a person, it'll usually start out individual, trust, and it'll have some other corporate entities. And then at the end of those generally say, or any other legal entity. Okay. So that means everything that became before that was a legal entity. So you're not a legal entity. You just by your birth did not make you a legal entity. A legal entity is something that's created by the state. States create legal entities. And there's actually a statute citing. I have it up on Telegram. Basically, it states that the state, when you create a business, it becomes a creature of the state.
Here it is right here. Go ahead, read it, Alphonse. Yep.
I can't see it. You got to read it. Can you read it?
Yeah, I can. The present tax, this is Newark Fire Insurance Company versus the State Board of Tax Appeals. And the present tax, as administered, is levied upon an assessment of the full amount of capital, stock, and surplus. It is a tax on the net value of the corporation, less allowable deductions. And I just want to explain this to people real quick, okay? All corporations have a license and are registered at the state level. State levels regulate commercial activity, okay? Less allowable deductions reached by taking liabilities from gross value of assets and subtracting exempt items. This is apparently because capital, stock, and surplus are treated as invested in the exempt assets. The value thus assessed is not determined by specific items, but is the result of a calculation in which all assets are involved except those definitely exempted. Our conclusions makes it unnecessary to resolve doubts as to whether this is a property tax. When a state exercises its sovereign power to create a private corporation, that corporation becomes a citizen and domiciled in the jurisdiction of its creator. There it must dwell. The dominion of the state over its creature is complete. In accordance with the ordinary recognition of the rule of mobilia sequentur personam to determine the taxable situs of intangible personality, the presumption is that such property is taxable by the state of the corporation's origin. And so we have, again, this, it's been set in stone a million different times in a million different ways. The creator of something has control over it, right? And this is why the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights states unequivocally that we hold these truths to be self-evident, and that all men are created equal, endowed by the creator with certain unalienable rights. That unalienable rights translate to what is called substantive rights, right? This is your substantive due process right. This is your right to the exclusion of property, your right to due process, all these ideas that we continue to talk about and try to get people to understand. For instance, Alphonse brought up the idea of individual in the tax code, individual everywhere else, and then they follow that up with private joint associations, joint stock companies, corporations, all legal entities, right? So if you're assumed to be in that creation of the state's going to regulate you that way. And this is where the ignorance and incompetence, and I implore each and every one of you out there, the records request is your first step, because what you're going to do is recognize, once you do a record request and you ask just simple questions, what's going to happen is you're going to realize these people do not know. It's not some major conspiracy. It really isn't. These people are just ignorant. They're incompetent, they're ignorant, and they have no idea why or for what reason they are taxing your property. We've been doing it this way. The title company 30 years ago processed your deed at the courthouse, and so we just assumed we had complete control and ownership of it.
Yeah, I just did a record request, and one of the first record I asked for was provide me the record evidencing a taxable situs at the property. Okay, so here's what they sent me, Brandon. You're gonna love this: a printout from the treasurer's website, because it said taxpayer. I don't know who entered that. Nobody's name's on it. They just put that on there. Okay, now get this. Also, they made a phony tax certificate up. Nobody signed it. Didn't come from a court of competent jurisdiction. I don't know who made it. So that was their evidence that there's a taxable situs at the property. These people have no clue what the tax codes are, how they work, how the actual tax system that they're tasked with collecting taxes on. They have no clue how it works. I asked them for, when you see the responses you get back, it's really stunning. That's when, like I said, when you get a chance to sit down and talk to these people. I've talked to the head property assessor in Delaware County, and within 2-3 questions, he was called for his attorney because he couldn't answer the questions.
Every one of them do it.
They all do it.
You can
ask them if their name's the county of Delaware. They say, "Hold on a second, I got to ask my attorney." I'm not sure. They can't answer any questions themselves. Now that should tell you a whole lot. If you're dealing with a guy who's responsible for doing something, and he's got to go run to a private contractor called an attorney to get advice on how to answer questions, you got a guy that's a button pusher who has no idea what he's doing. Okay.
And so before we delve too far off, I just want to bring this back too, so people can do the one-to-one correlation here. In all taxation works the same way. All of it works the same way. It is an assumption, either federally with the income tax, that you are what's called a U.S. person. And on your 1040 return form, you'll file as individual, married, or whatever. Now, one of the things that I've been looking at is one of these forms is this one right here. It's a non-resident alien. So a non-resident alien only applies as to the municipality. That's it. Just like I'm not an inhabitant of the town of Denham Springs or the town of Marpaw. I'm not an inhabitant. By definition, I'm not a corporation. The only place that your social security number matters, I just want to get this out here because I'm getting a lot of people that hit me up with this as we move forward. It is an employee identification number. That's what the social security number is, guys. It's not some super secret trust out there that's it's not a benefit in any way, shape, or form. What it is, it's an employee number. Okay. So once you rebut that presumption with the IRS through the exhaustion of administrative remedy, they can't prove that you're domiciled in Washington, D.C. They can't prove that you're a taxpayer. They can't prove that you're a federal franchise scheme, because by reality, by fact, your status is already done. By fact and by law, I'm a walking, talking, breathing, living, sentient man. If they can bring something to the table that says I do not have unalienable rights, then everything that they've done is null and void. So you'll see here in this particular form, it's the only form that I've ever found in the IRS that it states something other than individual. Can you see it in the top left, Alphonse?
Yeah, let me blow it up here.
Here, I can blow it up. I can blow it up for you, buddy. Here, let me blow it up for everybody.
You get old, man. You can't see that.
How about that? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see good enough. Okay. Yeah.
Your filing status is single. And so what you'll see on all your other forms is what's called a wording called U.S. person, and not U.S. citizen or American national or anything like this. You'll find the word single right here. And what you'll do, your identifying number over here, they won't, but right here is income effectively connected with what? U.S. trade or business. And so I'll tell each and every one of you out there that earn wages, which is your property from your labor, that none of you, 90% of you, not probably higher than that, have never had income effectively connected with U.S. trade or business. So as you move forward, there's a one-to-one correlation, okay? It's not complicated. It's very simple. The words are there. The ideas are here. They're even within their own documents. But what we've been relegated to is people that can't see either what's not said or what's implied, right? And so you have to take those implications that's continually programmed in you and throw them out the window and recognize that the limiting document, the document of negative liberties, is still here. It's being judged correctly as of what was it, Tuesday, Alphonse, with the Florida judge openly stating that the CDC overstepped its boundaries and all of its mask mandates are unconstitutional. Well, we knew that. We've been waiting for this for 2 years, right? So now every court case that I have filed, from ordinances from chiefs and everything else that violated my constitutionally secured rights, guess what? It's an easy walk-through court case. I'm gonna walk through this court case prancing like a pony because they violated our substantive rights. Nobody has sovereign immunity when you do this. And so we'll start back over here, right here. I pulled up this section of American jurisprudence, and I want you to discuss with these guys. Can you see that, Alphonse?
Yeah.
Here, I'll blow it up a little bit, buddy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Tell me when you can see it.
A little more.
How about
there we
that?
go. That's good. Yeah, the burden-proofing title of or ownership of real property is upon the party alleging it. The burden of rebutting a prima facie showing of title rests upon the party attacking the title shown. And another person who claims ownership to the property must establish the claim by clear, satisfactory, and convincing evidence. Here's what title means. Title's complete ownership of the property, okay? You can't do anything to the property without the title. You can't tax property that you don't have title to. You can only tax property that you own or you have jurisdiction over. You can't tax property you don't have title to. And look what the county does with these tax sales. They create these phony tax certificates and they sell them to dummies who buy these certificates thinking that they're buying a property. They're not. The county can never sell the house because they never own the house. And Steve always laughs about, he actually's got the form that that Florida has for the tax sale. And one of the questions on there, Brandon, when did the county acquire title? How about never? Okay. How about never? So that's a problem for them.
And you're good. I'm just setting up the next volley, right? That's all I'm doing. So guys,
and listen, here's another thing that's really offensive with what these people are doing. When you register the property, the only reason you really register property is to avoid land disputes in the future, so that nobody could say, "Hey, that's my property." Like, no, that's my property. I got it registered with the county. But what these people do is when the property gets registered, whether the title company's doing this or the attorney handling the transaction, its settlement's doing this, or the county, somebody from the county's doing it, they're taking your registration and automatically categorizing the property as taxable. These people believe that every square inch in the county is a taxable thing for them. It's not, okay? Yeah. But that's how they'll proceed. And the funny part is, you don't know who made that determination. Go call up the treasurer or do a records request with the treasurer, asking for a record of who designated the property as being taxable. Did it just magically become taxable, or how did it get that status?
Well, we haven't done one records request, Alphonse, that has answered the question of the commercial activity being regulated at this whoever's address, right? We haven't had the one answer corrected about the contract between the two parties obligating them to be regulated. None of these questions that we ask in the records request at this point have been answered. None, not one, not a single one. 90% of the time it's sent to an attorney. Gary has actually been invited down to the assessor's office where they gave him all kind of free goodies.
Really?
Yeah. And a personal handwritten note. We hope we satisfied your questions, but he already knows that the questions aren't satisfied, because once you do start digging, what you do is find the inconsistencies with the power and authority they have by legislature. And their only power and authority is to regulate commercial identities. That is it.
Well, here's the ridiculousness of this stuff, and I think I told you before how this is. And here, it's funny. Here's why record requests are so important. You stumble across some stuff, they will send you stuff or say stuff that will just make your jaw drop at a certain point. So I did a record request with the Township of Aston here, and I asked, what happened was their attorney forged 2 liens against my property. Okay, now they're really not liens. You know why? Because they're not even registered with the recorder. Okay, so they're claiming they're liens, but nobody actually recorded anything. But they're calling them liens. So I asked for the contract between the township and the attorney who filed these liens, and they said, we don't have any contract with the law firm that filed those liens. Oh, really? Okay. But here, we're going to give you this other contract from this collection firm called Municipal Resource Recovery Services. Guess who the president of Municipal Resource Recovery Systems is? attorney,
you're
they don't have a contract with.
you're gonna find that conflict of interest. There's a little lady I'm helping in El Paso. Right, the law firm didn't show up, nor the judge in her status hearing. Right, and I have to say, so far she's got the motion, the hearing date scheduled for her motion to challenge subject matter and in personam jurisdiction. They did. She set the date. They gave her the date, and the only individual or living woman in there claimed she wasn't part of the law firm, right? But she was the city's attorney. Well, guess what she really was? She's part of the law firm. But folks, this is called a conflict of interest, right? This is against their professional rules of conduct. They can't. You can't bring an action against somebody, violate their substantive rights, and assume municipal liens on a non-commercial identity. This is criminal. This is the entire reason.
This is forgery.
Yes, this is the entire reason why when the Christopher Hauser stuff, and look, we're not bad-mouthing anybody. That's not what we're doing here. But when you start filing liens against living men and women, you're violating their due process rights, okay? And that's exactly what's happening here. They're trying to skip over the process and violate these rights of yours to go cross-examine. Well, guess what, folks? The township of Aston, they can't get up on the stand and talk about how they have interest or ownership claim in Alphonse's property. They can't do it. So who's really claiming this interest into his property absent of title? And these ideas are all over the place, right? This is what we're talking about. Simplify the idea, okay? Take all the junk that you learned about secret trust, secret things that are operating in the realm of cloud cuckoo land, and simply focus on the things like American jurisprudence. Listen, Alphonse told me, I don't know, it's been 8-9 months ago, Alphonse, he said, hey, we private messaged me. He said, man, if you don't have American jurisprudence, it's really going to open your eyes up. I took it upon myself. Gary took it upon himself to start getting packets of it. Once I got it and started reading it and then reading the case law associated with it, I was like, oh my God. It opened up a whole new world for me, right? And this is why I freely share this stuff with you guys, and Alphonse does too, and so does Be Free. What has happened is a violation of our due process rights, our unalienable rights, and a continued criminal actions are being. That's what it is. It's criminal. If I walk up to somebody and tell them they have to do my will, whether they like it or not, I have committed a criminal action. I have trespassed their property. That's what I've done. I've trespassed it. So understand this as we move forward through it, whether ignorance, wanton disregard, or just straight up incompetence. These people aren't even aware. It's the perfect insulation for criminal RICO organizations, right? It's perfect insulation that you put some dummy Johnny Tutu up there who's took an oath to office and he doesn't even know what the hell he's taking an oath to. It's the perfect insulation.
Now, here's how unaware they are. Okay, so I'm telling you this story about they sent me the contract for the collection firm, and who's the president? The attorney that they don't have the contract with, the law firm they don't have a contract with. Now, the contract they give me, his collection firm, Brandon, at the top it says business privilege and mercantile taxes. Okay? And in the contract it says they're specifically tasked with collecting business privilege and mercantile taxes. Come on, man. Like, did they not read this? Did somebody not look at this? Come on. This is what you're dealing with, okay? It's everything we were saying. These are commercial taxes. Even in their own documents, their own contract tells you this is a commercial tax that they're collecting. So this is what you're dealing with. But listen, you've got to understand that if you're Steve Emerson, you may get yourself off the tax roll by having a chat with the tax collector. See, Gary had his chat, right? But they didn't take his property off the tax roll, right? He's still on there, right?
We haven't requested yet, but what we're doing is setting up the volley, right? And so it's just like with my situation. I got a conflict of interest with my tax assessor. He happens to be my father-in-law.
That could be a problem.
Well, he is. He's my father-in-law. And so one of the things that I did, because you know as well as I know, I didn't have direct access to Steve Emerson. I've been catching up on the property stuff since I joined the Telegram group, and I moved past the stupidity of challenging the all capitals name, like talking about secret trust, and I moved from that idiotic standpoint. And look, folks, listen. If you don't know something, you just don't know something. We all speak from our highest level of ignorance. That's just a fact, okay? But when you do come to new information that you can validate, verify, and substantiate your claim, well, now what you have is what's called essential elements to prove the cause of action, okay? And it is so simple now that I understand it and see it. But what I did was I started looking at the property tax stuff. And because I have a father-in-law that is a tax assessor, I started asking questions. And it was at that point that my mind opened up to the possibility that these people aren't in some major conspiracy. They're just doing their job like everyone else. Just like the COVID-19 was able to happen, folks, because people are just doing exactly what they're told to do with no thought about how their actions cause consequences to somebody else. I'm just doing my job. That is the normal statement that you're going to get. So while we're talking about this and we continue to move forward, if you haven't joined the Telegram groups, if you haven't downloaded the municipality section or the constitutional law sections, or if you haven't even gotten with Alphonse and got the CD set of American jurisprudence, which is going to be your cheapest option, by the way, I currently pay $297 a month. I pay $297 a month for this subscription, guys. Listen, I'll show you the subscription. I pay $297 a month, and I clicked on some wrong things last month, and it cost me a bunch of money. But my Westlaw subscription costs a truck note. Now I do that so I can go pull up the stuff instantly and not have to search. It's that value's there for me, but for you, that value may not be there. But this American jurisprudence is going to change your outlook about the system of law here in America. You're going to turn from this is a horrible country with horrible written laws that all the people that ever worked here were horrible, to a point where there's been good people here that wrote this stuff for a reason, to protect us in the long run. That's what your mind's going to change from. All right. So another definition of a municipal corporation is that it is the body politic and corporate constituted by the incorporation of the inhabitants of a city, town, or village for the purpose of the local government thereof. And so with this particular section right here, what I've done, what Mr. Jim's done, is taken this information and he bolded for us the hold on, what's going on here? It's not rolling. There it goes. I got it now. He's bolded every item that is important for you to see. The elements essential to constitute a municipal corporation comprehend a contiguous territory sufficiently populated and industrialized to make it necessary that additional and better governmental services such as police protection, sanitary improvements, lights, water, electricity, sewage disposal, paved streets, and other municipal conveniences be provided. Okay, so we're getting back into this ever encroaching territory. And what else? What's the two constituent ideas, that essential elements that create a municipality?
Municipality's got to have a territory and it's got to have inhabitants. Now let's talk about a territory real quick. Just because you're in their territory doesn't mean you have duties and obligations to the municipality. Yeah. I'm in the local McDonald's. I'm in their territory too, okay? For that McDonald's. Doesn't mean I have to be their customer, okay? So, and how would you know that you're not in their territory? Because they can't come into your house anytime they want. They can't walk up and just enter your house. Well, if it's their territory, they should be able to walk in your house. It's not their property. They need a warrant to come into the property. So it's obvious it's not their territory. Even though you're in their territory, it doesn't grant them rights to your property. They're only a municipal corporation created by the state. Just because the state created them doesn't give them right in your property, because you know why? The state never had rights in your property. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that created the Township of Aston or the County of Delaware never had rights in my property. The Commonwealth doesn't own my property. They don't have ownership, interest, or rights in my property. So if they never had it, how could they delegate it to another municipality? They can't. Okay? These are your rights. These are your God-given, inalienable rights. You don't lose your rights when you registered your property with the county. When you register your car or your property, you don't grant others rights in the property. That's total nonsense. You'll never find that anywhere where somebody registers property and the county gets authority over it or jurisdiction over it. No, these are people that are working in the county government that are doing things they're not supposed to be doing. Okay, they're taking property and just everything's automatically getting tagged as being taxable. And the reason it's staying there, because here's what they're betting on. Rarely will you go have a meeting like Gary or Steve, and they're going to just take it off the tax roll. They're going to make you sue them. You got to sue them, and then they're going to come to the table and settle with you because they're not going to go to court over this matter, okay? So they're going to force you to sue them because you know why? They don't think you're going to know how to do it, and they're not afraid of you right now until you put the lawsuit on their lap, and then you'll get their respect and you'll get your property off. So if you're going to get into their property tax stuff, you've got to get it in your head that you're going to take it to the point where you're going to have to file a federal district lawsuit against these people.
And it's not as complicated as people think it is, right, Alphonse? Yes, it takes a lot of dedication. It takes a little bit of elbow grease. It takes a lot of reading, okay? It takes a lot of reading through ambiguous and vague language. Let me give each and every one of you a pointer out there. If you haven't recognized this truth that I'm about to say right now. Language that is so vague and ambiguous that it cannot identify who is responsible or liable for that statement is null and void from the very get-go. And what do I mean by that, okay? So if I come in and I write a tax code that starts talking about persons and things of that nature and everything else, but I don't actually express within. So I'll tell this right now. A lot of people have a misconception about what the four corner doctrine rule is. The four corner doctrine rule means that everything within the four corners of that contract nothing can be added or taken from. It sets the perimeters of the contract. Okay. That's what the four corner rule is. It isn't about little boxes on your piece of paper. That's not what it is. The four corner rule is a document that states that nothing can be added to or therefrom, okay? So implied consent is not the same as express consent, right? If I have fooled you, there has been no true meeting of the minds, consideration and agreement. The contract's null and void, okay? Do you understand that? It's null and void. It's void ab initio is what the statement would be. So when you get to this point, when you don't see the expression of a living man or woman being written into the tax code, there's a reason. Because by the Constitution of the United States, which is the original document of limitation, it can't be. Okay? So
yeah, when you read your rights in your state constitution, they have no trouble mentioning man. Inherent rights of mankind, Pennsylvania Constitution. Any man done a harm to him and his property, his land, blah, blah, blah. They mention man, no problem in those when they're talking about rights. Right. Whenever they're talking about statutes or codes, it's always person or persons. That's not an accident, okay? They know that they can't violate people's rights. All right. All these people can do is, like Steve says, is BS you into not exercising your rights. Now, Pennsylvania is one of the few states that, I mean, Steve actually commented on how clear Pennsylvania is about what a taxpayer is. I'm going to read you two little taxpayer definitions, Brandon. I don't know how much clearer it could be for you. I don't know if I could share this. I never did sharing on here.
I'm trying to see if I can give you the share screen. Hold on, give me a second. I've never done that either. So okay. Let the two digital NIM.
I'm a rookie on this.
We are not. Let's see if I can give you the. See if I can give him. No, that's not it. So what can I do? No, I don't want to remove him. Add him back. So I I really don't know how to do it.
All right, not a problem.
Hold on.
Let me I'll just read it to you. It's two definitions.
Now see if you can share your screen at the little bottom there. See if you can press share.
Share screen. Okay.
Yep. And then share whichever screen you're showing.
Is anything coming up? There we go. You seeing that?
No, not yet. You're going to get it. I know you're going to get it. We can do this.
You see. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, hold on.
So share the right screen and then.
Yeah, I got to figure out. There we go. Boom. Share. Okay, sharing my screen. I don't see it though.
Hold on. Let me see. Let's see what we got over here. What is this? How about boys and girls? We have done it.
You see 61 Pennsylvania code?
Yeah, we got. Hey, this is a miracle.
Hey, sometimes when two dummies put their heads together, they can do something, you know. So here it is. I mean, this is right out of Pennsylvania tax code. Look at this. Pennsylvania code 153.1, taxpayer. The following entities organized and incorporated under the statutes of this Commonwealth, the United States or another state, territory, or foreign country, or dependency. Look, and doing business in the Commonwealth. And then 155.1 says the same thing. And look, it further breaks down what a taxpayer is. Corporations having capital stock, joint stock associations, limited partnerships. I mean, it's right there in your face.
It is.
It's right there in your face what a taxpayer is.
Well, and let's do this. Let me share again, because what I want to do is go to the Newark, right? And we want to read it again, right? We want to read the Newark idea because this is important for people to grasp, okay? I don't know why we've got so much stuff up here, but where'd my Newark go? Oh, my goodness. Where's Westlaw? I don't. It's over here. Cancel that. It's over here. All right, Gary, I got it. It's right here. So let's go back to this. When a state exercises, hold up, where'd you go? Oh, that's right, because we blew it up. When a state exercises its sovereign power to create a private corporation, that corporation becomes a citizen. And domicile, this is a huge word most people don't understand. It gives someone the idea that you're an inhabitant within a specified territory in the jurisdiction of its creator. Okay, listen, guys. These substantive rights we keep talking about, these unalienable rights that have been given to you from God, are not under the jurisdiction of the state. They cannot be. By fact, by law, by application of jurisprudence. There it must dwell. That means it has no right to move about. It has no life within it. It can't move freely, travel like we do, right? The dominion over the state, of the state over its creature is complete. It is complete. And so what I want to tell people as we continue to move forward, that you must remove from your mind what you think you know. And I'll say this again because we had somebody else today in the Alphonse group that was misconflating and misconstruing spiritual ideas into his interpretation of the objective world. Listen, guys, if it's not expressed with context and words and language, do not read Caesar's world with a philosophical mindset. Do not do it. It has to be expressed in this reality. And what I mean is within the courts. You can't go talking philosophically, giving words whatever meaning you want to. They are defined by code, they're defined by statute, and they're defined by context. So when we talk about these inalienable rights, this exercising of regulation over commercial entities, this is a state power. This is why they ask you to go get licenses, because licenses are an identification that you are doing business in that state. Just the same as when you file your first 1040 form and you state that you're an individual, what you just did, you think that word means one thing, but in Title 26 of the United States IRS Code, it states unequivocally that an individual is a corporation. It's yes, there are people out there who have spent their time writing this vague and ambiguous language to entrap and ensnare people. That's no doubt. That means it's one group of people, one industry of people who have done that. It's not Tommy Tutu down at the assessor's office who's done it. It's lawyers inside the bar association.
Yeah, and listen, here's the structure of what's going on. I know it's got a lot of people confused. Your local municipality, these are button pushers. Like Brandon and I tell you, they get these jobs. They're told, this is your job. Here's what you do. Here's how you do it. They follow a script. They don't move off of that, okay? Everything, basically, they're puppets that are being controlled by the bar association. The attorneys, the solicitors for the county or for the township or the borough, they're the puppet masters that are the ringmasters of this whole thing, basically. They're the ones that are over there saying that you're an inhabitant, Mr. Fagiola and, Mr. Sibley, they're inhabitants, These are inhabitants. I'm going to share one thing, Brandon. This is going to take the 14th Amendment and drop it on everybody's head.
Well, here, let me stop sharing, and I want you to share it because this is what we're here for. So let me take this screen down.
This is like the mic drop, basically. And this is coming right out of
there you go. Go ahead, do your thing.
Let me do share screen. Okay, share screen.
Are you bringing up that crazy 14th Amendment that locks us in?
Makes you slave,
So I just want to explain to people. I just want to explain to people here real quick while Alphonse is bringing this up. Go ahead, do your thing, Alphonse.
You got it? Seen it?
So I had to spend weeks upon weeks, end upon end of researching the sovereign immunity that is so-called claimed by the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, guys. It was upon thousands of hours of reading that I finally figured out that a violation of what amendment constitutes a leaving of their sovereign immunity and liability towards the deprivation of rights of the a living man or woman. It's the 14th Amendment, folks. So
Can you see that one right there? The word citizen?
Nope. I got to swap it. I'm gonna swap it right now.
All right.
How about that? Can we see it now?
Can you see it?
Oh no, I'm back on my screen. So let me remove that. I know what I got to do. Stop screen. Okay, now do it. Now share the screen.
Let's see. Let me go pull it down. I'll get this down. Sooner or later, I'll get this.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had people on in so long, I forgot how to actually use it. So share screen and do your alternate screen that you're not viewing yourself on.
It's not letting me. Hold on here. Let's see here.
Hey, I had to put this together in 5 minutes. I was down there screwing off, finishing up my tort letter to Chief Cyrus Ben. While we're waiting, I'm going to give everybody a shout out. Humble Disciples, Vincent Floyd, Blue Sky, Gene V, Peppermint Patty, glad to see you in here. I hope the jurisdictionary course is treating you well. I'm so proud of you to start that. Oh, there, I got it, Alphonse.
You got it?
Yep. Hold on. Let me add it to the stream. There we go.
Can you read that for me, the word citizen?
Yep. The word citizen, as used in the 14th Amendment, is used in a political sense to designate one who has the rights and privileges of a citizen of a state or of the United States, and does not mean the same thing as a resident, inhabitant, or person. Oh, this is beautiful, Alphonse, because it brings back the non-resident alien status that you would file with the IRS, which is a U.S. person, which has no identity, right? Because the person is a legal entity created by the creature of state. This is beautiful right here.
Isn't that what the municipalities are calling you? A resident, an inhabitant, and a person?
That's right.
And remember, how many times you heard, Brandon, they say, well, if you're a citizen, you're a slave. They're telling you right there, no. That just designates your rights and privileges, okay? That's different than a resident, an inhabitant, and a person.
Well, and it's enumerated in American jurisprudence over and over again, the rights, privileges, and immunities as secured by the 5th, which is national, or the 14th Amendment, which is statewide, which is equality. And I'll explain this again. Brandon lives in the state of Louisiana, which is a civil law state. Guess what? I still get to use the common law here. Why? Because it's common to everybody. I cross over into Mississippi, and Mississippi doesn't get to unequally judge me by their new laws that violate my substantive rights that are protected by the 5th and 14th Amendment. That is why it's there. We have great laws written. We have great case law decided on. What we cannot allow as we move forward is the dumb progressive communist mindset of the destruction of individual liberty and freedom. We have people adjudicating right now today, state level, local level, and even mainly federal level, that are adjudicating the correct way. The time is now. Who it is going to be, it should be you. Each and every one of us should get involved in this process because it is going to affect our posterity. Go ahead,
yeah,
Alphonse.
the 14th Amendment's like the redhead stepchild that nobody wanted. You know? But it's like the most powerful amendment out there. It's amazing, like how much
it is. It really is.
The 14th
when I read the Constitution,
go ahead. I'm saying the 5th Amendment they repeated is the 14th Amendment, and then they expanded it, okay? And that 14th Amendment allows you to sue these municipalities. The 14th applies back to states, okay? What states do, what municipalities do. So that 14th Amendment allows you to drag these guys kicking and screaming in the federal district court and having to answer you. Without that 14th Amendment, you're screwed, okay? If you don't appreciate that, go talk to the people in New Zealand and Australia. Go see what kind of problems they have holding people accountable. They can't do what we do. And the main thing with that 14th Amendment is equal protection under the law. So that me living in Pennsylvania can't have a different set of rights than Brandon has in Louisiana, okay? So if the tax system works this way here in Pennsylvania, it's got to work the same way where he lives too. We can't be running a separate tax system.
Well, what's beautiful in the state of Texas article, section 11.12, I think it's 11.12 in the state of Texas. It states unequivocally that if you're exempt federally from ad valorem taxes, you're exempt statewide. Okay, I mean it just states it out front, right? And Vincent, what I would say to this is, what is really Caesar's? That's the point of that scripture. Nothing. He doesn't exist. He's just the hairy man. The man of flesh, the man of sense consciousness owns nothing. He just lives in the world of 2D, right? That's it. That's the answer to that statement. Caesar is just a concept that's of a dead entity.
Yeah, and here's the other great thing that you hear from people. Here's the indoctrination of people. Well, who's going to pave the roads? Who's going to shovel the snow? No. Listen, here's how municipalities work. They are municipal corporations, just like McDonald's or Taco Bell, except they don't sell burgers and tacos. They sell government services, okay? They provide government services. So they go to the state, and they become incorporated. They become a creature of the state, okay? They become a political subdivision of the state. That's what a municipality is, okay? They have a charter, just like McDonald's has a charter and Taco Bell's a charter. They have a charter. In that charter, they're granted authority to tax the local businesses in their territory. McDonald's, Boeing, Taco Bell. In exchange for that privilege of being allowed to tax businesses, the municipalities promise to provide services to the people, schools, pick your trash up, plow the streets. over the years, they somehow convinced the people that you and I are supposed to pay for these services. No, they don't need $100,000 cop cruisers. They got like, you look at these cop cruisers, they got like 3 computer screens in there. That looks like the Batmobile when you look at these cop cruisers. They don't need that, okay? That's your tax money that they're stealing from you and they're wasting. You know, they waste money on this junk that they don't need. And it's the people's fault because they've allowed themselves to fall asleep on their rights.
And they really have.
They have, absolutely. And we're really seeing it through this whole BS pandemic, you know, of how badly they've fallen asleep on their rights.
And I just want to nail this point home that I want each and every one of you out there to understand that Alphonse or Brandon haven't just magically made these words appear and applied them without substantiation. This is Section 16, Municipal Corporations, 56 Jur, American Jurisprudence, how American law is systematically adjudicated on time after time. Municipal corporations, county, and other political subdivisions. A municipal corporation must have both territory and inhabitants. The corporation consists of both territory and inhabitants. Both are indispensable to its existence. The inhabitants of the territory included within a political organization are the what? Remember what I said about the employee identification number, which is what a social security number is? It's the same thing. Same thing happening through the IRS. There's a reason why the IRS isn't actually an agency of the federal government. There's a reason why they have U.S. tax courts versus U.S. District Court and the deprivation of rights as secured by the Constitution. Make no mistake, they create these administrative courts that insulate themselves from liability. Within a political course, the inhabitants of the territory included within a political organization. Hey guys, did you ever go sign up to be part of that political organization?
I lost my form, Brandon. I think I lost mine. I didn't get mine.
I'm not a card-carrying member of the town of Marpole. I'm just not, right? Are the members of that corporation. They, rather than the common council or governing body, are said to compose the corporation. And you can go on, but I implore each and every one of you out there to join the Telegram groups, download some of this information that we have shared freely, get the records requests, study a criminal complaint, start looking into what is substantive due process, and then start learning what is called procedural due process, which is the rules of civil procedure. And understand that most of the actions brought against you and I are a violation of these due process rights, and it is our duty to push back. And it's time. It's just time, right, Alphonse?
Brandon, I live about 4 blocks from Taco Bell, okay? Am I a member of the Taco Bell Corporation? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I pressed the wrong button.
I live about 4 blocks from Taco Bell, my house. Am I a member of the Taco Bell Corporation because of where I live?
No.
Okay, so I live about 3 blocks from the Township of Aston Corporation. Am I a member of the Township of Aston Corporation based on my physical location? But that's the presumption that they're making against you. Okay, that's what they're doing with everybody. They're moving on assumptions, not rules and laws and facts. So,
yeah, and that's the whole process, Alphonse. As we continue to move forward, right, and trying to get people interested in lawful solutions, and we've got I don't know if the event's going to 100% go, whether we're all going to be involved. I think we got issues to work out. But even people such as Andy Kaufman and people of that nature are getting interested. Listen, guys, go throw the poppycock out the window. If they can't substantiate their claim in the world of Caesar with a validation by primary or secondary sources with case law, with constitutional law sections, go throw it out, because it's not going to apply anywhere in this world. Your delusions of grandeur are not going to apply. Your secret United States Social Security Trust, that all that crap. You watch me, each and every one of you that's been here for years. I walked into a federal district court with a completely winnable case, and what happened? I wanted to argue about the straw man. Folks, I had to learn from that experience. Don't do that. Don't get lost in the land of fairy tales. Understand that what we are showing you, what we're trying to lead each and every one of you down to, is an understanding of the principles on which this system is built upon. Hey, luckily, guys, we don't live in China. Luckily, we don't live somewhere else where they don't have the principle of due process. That's the only reason you can go make these people be held accountable, is because of your due process rights.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm reading here. Vince said, when guys with badges and guns come for you, what are you going to do? I'm sorry, Vince. That doesn't work like that, okay? Here's what you're going to notice. When you start running at these people, and that's what I do, I run at them. I file complaints against them. I get in their face, and I'll sue them. I'll bring them up in federal district court, and I'll sue them up there. And guess what? It doesn't matter about their badges and guns, because once I file that suit, everything stops. They're not going to do anything to me, because now it's intimidation of a witness or a victim, okay? So they can't do anything to me. Now they got to answer me and explain to me how the heck they're doing what they're doing. And guess what? When it gets put under the light of day, they can't explain it, because there is no explanation for it. Because everything they're doing right off the bat with these administrative courts is a violation of your substantive rights. How do you know a statute doesn't apply to you? When it violates your substantive rights right off the bat, okay? When they do a summary judgment against you, a summary offense, they'll do with a traffic ticket or something. That can't apply to you. You know why? Because you have a right to trial by jury in all matters. You never got a trial by jury. You have a right to due process in all matters. You never got due process in that matter. So evidently that process, that summary offense process, can't apply to you, because it violates your rights right off the bat. So there's no way that was written for you. But they will try and move that against you until you call them on it. And you say, hey, wait a minute. You guys can't do this. You're violating these rights. And look, here's what the actual case law says about it. And that's how you beat these people.
So we'll read this section too, the case authorities. Municipalities are legislatively created. And we'll go back to what Alphonse has stated before. Constitution, legislation, administration, and then finally what, Alphonse? Case law, right? Okay. So you have to have your primary, your secondary, your third, your fourth, right? So your primary, your document of original limitations for all states, all municipalities, all governments within this United States is the Constitution. That is the document of negative liberties. Listen, folks, it's a big difference between saying I have constitutionally secured or protected rights versus I got constitutional rights. You know, it's an invalid statement when you say I've got constitutional rights. No, because constitutional rights is not a correct use of verbiage. Municipalities are legislatively created and possess only such authority as is granted to them, together with the powers reasonably incident to the authority conferred. And that's another case law there that you can go look up if you so choose. And so I'm going through the municipality section for a reason, folks, is to show you that so many, and I've done this before too. And Alphonse, you remember when we were doing affidavits of status, affidavits of fact, and things of that nature. And people ask us about those things today. And what is our response?
We really don't use them anymore. We don't, listen, they've solved a lot of stuff for people. They're good for people that are not going to go into any kind of legal proceeding, okay? If you want to try and get rid of something, it may or may not work. It's a coin toss. But nobody's got to answer your affidavit. So you're better off taking the points of your affidavit and working it into your pleading, your lawsuit, and using it in your discovery once you file your lawsuit. Because now people have to respond to it. You know, in a lawsuit, they have to respond. And at a court affidavit, they're going to take. There's no way you're going to get an answer with that affidavit, because why would somebody step into potential liability and answer you when they don't have to? They're not. So you're just shooting paperwork out. You're wasting your time, basically. If you took that affidavit and crafted it into a civil pleading, a Title 42, 1983 pleading, and what you couldn't fit in that pleading, you put in your discovery requests. And discovery is the most powerful thing you could have. Here's how you get discovery. Once you file a lawsuit, you could move into the discovery stage, okay? Here's your 5 steps of discovery. Admissions, which are yes, no questions. How would you like to ask questions to the other party, deadly questions that are going to make them hang themselves? Do I have a right to due process? Yes.
Yeah, very simple. Do I have a right to the exclusive use of property?
Do I have a right to own property? Yes. Can a right be taxed? No. How are you taxing my property? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's your discovery. That's your admissions. Then you get to ask them interrogatories, which are flat out questions. Excuse me. What activities are you taxing in my property? Like, these are interrogatories, flat out questions. Then you can do requests for production. Please provide me the signed assessment of my property. Okay. But I don't have it. Okay. Please provide me, the return filed on the
return
property.
or the rendering in Texas or whatever it's called in your state. What you're going to find in order for there to be an assessment is the same. Listen, the 1-to-1 correlation comes again. So you file the assessment is made by the IRS because you file the what?
1040, right?
The return or the rendering, whatever it is in your state. But the same thing has to happen. There has to be a true assessment signed and then somebody filing return. I have yet to get anybody to, in the thousands of records requests I've done so far, to send me a return back.
When you file the 1040, aren't you filing an assessment?
You are. You're
yourself,
filing the assessment, right? You've done it yourself.
So there's the return, right? Hey, you filed this.
That's right.
You've assessed yourself. This is why they say what? Taxes are voluntary, right?
Yeah, voluntary.
You're assessing yourself, man. You're sending it in yourself.
And it is. It's informing on yourself due to the ignorance and an inability to go. First off, most people will go, and we see it all the time in the chat rooms, Alphonse, where people show up and they've got a million things running through their mind. They want to research the property tax. They want to research the income tax. They want to research everything all at once, right? And it's impossible to learn everything at once. Pick your avenue or whatever you want to learn. And I will tell you folks to actually identify what is substantive due process first and base that on your unalienable right for the exclusive use, enjoyment, and disposal of property. And then you'll move outward from there, understanding that you're not going to go read the statutes thinking that the statutes is going to unequivocally say, by the way, you have an exclusive right to the enjoyment use thereof, because that's not what they're created for. The statutes are created to regulate corporations. So, of course, they're going to say that you have to apply, right? So a municipality is merely a department of the state, and the state may withhold, grant, or withdraw powers and privileges as it sees fit. However great or small its sphere of action, it remains the creature of the state, exercising and holding powers and privileges subject to the what will? The sovereign will. Okay, so Alphonse, you have a great case law. I don't have it pulled up here about where the sovereignty of this country rests, and it rests in what?
The people. Yeah, I mean, it'll actually state that the word sovereign and the people are one and the same, basically. You can't separate one from the other. No, what did it say? Sovereignty and the citizen are one and the same. There's that term, right? Sovereign citizen, everybody runs from. Yet there's actual Supreme Court case law where they state that the people are sovereign. That citizenship and sovereignty are one and the same, and the people are sovereign. So, yeah, you are a sovereign citizen, but you don't run out and say, hey, I'm a sovereign citizen, but I'll tell you what, I have seen stuff that Steve has filed into cases, multi-million-dollar winning cases. And you know what Steve says? Alfonso Nicholas Faggiolo being one of the sovereign people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, or one of the sovereign people of Pennsylvania. Puts it right in the lawsuit, okay? One of the sovereign people. You don't run from that. You are sovereign, okay? Think about what a municipality is. He just read it to you. It's a creature of the state. So you have the state here. They created the municipality where you live. That's the county where you live, and that's the township that you live. The state created that. Did the state create you or me? No. Where do they get their rights from? From their charters. They have to register charters with the state, and the state approves the charter. Okay? That's where their rights are delegated, in the charter. You and I get our rights from our creator. We don't get rights from the state. State don't delegate rights to us. You can only control what you create. That's a maxim of law. And when you read these, where they talk about creatures, a creature of the state, they're reinforcing it that they can only control what they create. The municipalities they created, they control the municipality. They didn't create me and you, okay? So they can't control me and you as a legal entity, a person. But they are using that term to confuse you, because most people will say, well, I'm a person. That must mean me. That must be written for me, not knowing that a person is an actual registered legal entity doing business in the state of wherever you live. So, like Brandon said, don't look at words and assume you know the meanings. Get yourself a decent law dictionary and look them up, okay? And the best thing you can do, the best law dictionary you can get, is American jurisprudence. And once you get a copy of that and you read that, you're going to be very surprised at how pro-people it actually is, and pro-rights and property rights it is. I always thought it was going to be very government heavy, and it's actually not. It's very people heavy when you read it.
It is. And even I'll tell you something I read out of property earlier, and I read it to Gary. Our reading comprehension levels are so low that out of the property section, it stated unequivocally, it started off that a property is exclusive to the owner as protected and secured by the United States Constitution. And then it had a comma, and it goes, property interests are regulated by the state. Okay, property interest, and then it goes on to establish rules and procedures. We're talking about two separate entities right here. The regulation identifies that the state only regulates what? Businesses. So it was a separation, but because of our level of reading comprehension and our inability to separate the two ideas, and something so simple as an Oxford comma separated the two ideas, we don't have the necessary grammar skills or English skills to separate the two. We conflate them instead.
Right.
Let me read this section too real quick. In an action brought against a municipality under Title 42, 1983 for depriving a person of federally protected rights, the municipality is not entitled to qualified immunity from liability by asserting the good faith of its officers or agents as a defense to liability under Title Section 1983. This is Owen versus Independence. So Johnny Tutu down at the assessor's office or the clerk of courts down there who violates your federally protected and secured substantive rights through ignorance or incompetence or wanton disregard of those rights does not have what's called absolute immunity. They've stepped outside of that.
Right. Now it's funny when here's another thing you'll learn. Brandon, are ordinances and resolutions of municipalities, are they laws?
Nope, they're not laws.
How many people are aware that all your local taxing that's being done by your city, your borough, your township, that's all being done by ordinance and resolution? That's all your local taxes. You might be paying $2,000 or $3,000 local taxes to your borough or your township. It's all being done through ordinances and resolutions. See a problem here? See what they're doing here? They're misusing the actual laws, okay? And when you read the Local Tax Enabling Act here, the one I got here in Pennsylvania, it states that they can use these ordinances and resolutions to tax what? Persons, subjects, transactions. Does this have anything to do with you or me? No. Okay. Nothing at all to do with you and me. But they have people buffaloed to believe that they're persons, or worse yet, that some people are subjects. I did a record request a couple of years ago, Brandon, with the county. I was fighting them over the property tax stuff. You know, the attorney, now they're not supposed to answer questions, but I got under her skin so bad that she couldn't help herself. And she stepped up and she pointed to something in the state constitution that I was a subject of taxation under Section 8. You see a problem here? And so my next question was, how did I become a subject? How did this happen, right? And she went silent at that point. Couldn't say anything more after that. How exactly did I become a subject? Because
now you've made a claim, Alphonse. Now you have the burden of proof.
Sure.
I mean, you can't just whimsically declare that you're the subject of taxation without validation.
I can't figure out how, like Steve said, when you bought a property, when you bought land and you got a job, how did you become a taxpayer? How does that work? Because I can't find it in any law, statutes, or codes. Nothing says, hey, listen, when you buy a home or you get a job, you automatically become a taxpayer. Not written anywhere. Go ask them to show it to you. Hey, listen, when I got this job, where does it say I became a taxpayer? How did this happen to me? Okay.
I don't know. I'm still waiting on one of them to answer me how I became what I know that instinctively and spiritually that I cannot be, right? I know for a fact, and this is a thing we'll talk about real quick because I don't want to conflate too many spiritual ideas and philosophically conflate the two. But listen, guys, if you find the principle, okay, the principle of a thing is its beginning, and we've read here that all creatures are subject to its creator, just like we saw with municipality. Okay, I've had a plethora of people tell me that God's bad or whatever idea they want to tell me, and I've had to tell them unequivocally that your view of religion or religiosity doesn't matter here, because in this system, and it's the reason why I teach the Bible too, by the way, one of the many reasons, other than it's a great philosophical text with many tenets, but the principle underlying core is that man creates institutions. Therefore, the underlying principle is that man is above the institutions that he creates.
Sure. I mean, it's in your state constitution. Your government's there for your peace, safety, and happiness. Bottom line. Governments were instituted to protect rights. Well, you look around what they're doing. They're not protecting your rights. They're trampling your rights right now. They're not there for your peace, safety, and happiness. Like Steve said, it's not it's funny. I actually seen it in something he wrote, Brandon, to the federal court where it was. It's not the government's job to make you destitute, homeless, and broke.
Yeah. That's not it.
That's what they're doing.
And it states in American jurisprudence, I don't remember what section, we've talked about this back and forth before, that the number one purpose, it's written in the Bill of Rights, the number one purpose of government is to protect what? Our property.
Right.
That's the number, because we left King George because of what? Taxation of our property. So the number one thing that the government was instituted for was the protection of our property. And the only way that you could lose your property was to be justly compensated, and a state interest so narrowly tailored that it actually eliminated the evil in which it purported to stop, right? So what do I mean by that? I live in a neighborhood of 500 people. My home happens to sit in the lowest point. And the only way that the other 499 people could live in this neighborhood without flooding is to dig a retention pond at my house. Guess what happens? They dig a retention pond. They pay me for that retention pond because it protected the public. That is so narrowly tailored state interest that it actually applies to the safety and protection of others around you. Or say you live in a flood zone and they decided that it rains too much, they got to dig up what's called a diversion canal or whatever, and they go through and they buy everybody's home. You must be justly compensated for it, fair market value. And I don't know how many of you out there has received a check because they continue to tax your home.
Yeah, and listen, a lot of this is new to a lot of people, and the best way, easiest way to get into this, start doing local state record requests with your local town, your local borough. Ask them, provide me the record that evidences your ordinances and resolutions are applicable to myself and my property. There's a very simple record request. Most likely, here's what you're going to get back. We have no such record. Okay, so let me get this straight. So they're saying their ordinances and the resolutions apply to you, but they don't have anything on paper to prove it. So it must be somebody's opinion. So when this comes up in court at a certain point, nobody's going to come in from the borough or the township and testify that their ordinances and resolutions apply to you. I guarantee nobody's coming in, okay? The attorney can't testify that the ordinances and resolutions apply to you, and nobody from the borough or township are coming in to testify that their ordinances and codes apply to you. This is how you start sectioning these people off. You start whittling them down, because they will tell you things hoping you'll accept. Brandon, how many times did you see a record request? They'll tell you something hoping you're going to accept it. You look at it and you go, that's the dumbest thing I ever read.
Yeah, no, the lady I'm helping in El Paso, the clerk just openly stated, we have none of those records here. You know, well, these are all the things by Texas state tax code that you're supposed to have in order to substantiate your municipal lien that you filed, which is now criminal behavior, right?
Didn't you ask for the record of how they tax a private shelter?
Yeah,
you don't want to ask that?
Yeah. And so she has a hearing coming up, I think, within the next 10 days, right? And God bless this little lady. She's come such a long way. But the truth is that at the end of the day, because they filed municipal liens and have abused process, right? Abusive process, guys. This is a cause of action. That's what has happened against her. They have cost her time, money, energy, and everything else. Infliction of negligent infliction of emotional stress. She has a surefire lawsuit at the end of the day. There's no doubt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And they had no standing to go and tell this woman. That means substantiation. If her property was actually a commercial entity operating for trade or business, they could have regulated her property. Well, they have to substantiate that with some type of valid proof. And guess what it's going to be, folks? Where's the license that registered this business? That's the next question, right? Where's the license that registered this business? And we asked that question, and they didn't have it.
Now you touched on something, and here's something. Hopefully, this is be worth the price of admission today for people. There's two things. There's abusive process. That's a common law action, abusive process. Okay, that falls under the common law. That means that the township or the county are abusing the court's process. In other words, they're misusing the court to harm you in some way. Okay, that's what abusive process is. Then there's malicious prosecution. In order to bring a malicious prosecution suit against somebody, you must first win the lower level suit. Okay, if you win that lower level suit, or it's dismissed or something, now you can bring a malicious prosecution action. But the lower level suit has to fall in your favor. Okay, so say they come after you for a traffic ticket thing and you beat them in court. Well, now you could actually turn around and sue them for malicious prosecution, okay? Because you won that lower level suit. But if you don't have that, where you've won that lower level suit, you would want to bring in abusive process cause of action. And that's actually one of Dr. Grace's favorite cause of action. And he talks about abusive process all the time because that's happening constantly. When you see the local borough or township file this crap against you by sending you stuff in the mail, they didn't give you service of process, which is required, okay? They didn't file a complaint against you. They're trying to run you through this administrative process. An administrative process for what? Inhabitants, okay? Inhabitants, residents. They're trying to run you through this administrative process by blatantly violating your constitutionally secured rights. That's an abusive process. For them to file that stuff that way is a complete abusive process because they're abusing my constitutionally secured rights to a trial by jury, which is inviolate, and my right to due process of law. Let me see the complaint. Who's suing me for what? That's not what they're doing. So they're your two main cause of action. Abusive process you can use almost every time against these people when they're bringing you in these little kangaroo municipal courts because they are abusing the court's process to harm you and injure you.
You go ahead. I'm dealing with somebody in the chat. Go ahead.
Okay.
Can you see that next section? Can you read that for me?
Yeah, let me see here. What a municipality clearly cannot attack the Constitution. Okay. A municipality clearly cannot attack the constitutionality of a statute when it is at the same time keeping to avail itself of the benefit of its provisions. Rights of third persons as constituting a limitation upon legislative control of municipalities are discussed in other sections. Now, there's also case law I had, Brandon. I'll have to pull it up and put it in Telegram again. It states that when there's a dispute between a municipality and a citizen, guess where they got to side? They got to side with the citizen. When it's something vague that's not clear, and there's a dispute between the citizen and the municipality, you got to side with the citizen. I looked at that in American jurisprudence and my jaw dropped. I went, oh my God, look at that. That's almost all the time. Okay. That's constantly.
And what we had, somebody asked this question today, and you gave them the answer before I could, and that was Brother Saraf. By the way, Brother Saraf is another guy with major family court issues that we've been assisting, who now has a show cause hearing scheduled. When is that? It's coming up anyway. A show cause hearing that and if y'all don't know what a show cause hearing is, it's a motion put in by the court itself to show cause of why they violated this man's rights. But nonetheless, this idea of a charter, right? And these ideas that people don't understand that tie them to this corporation. It is an essential element of all constitutional provisions, establishing the principle of a municipal home rule that the Constitution and general laws of the state shall continue in force within the municipalities which have framed their own charters, and that the power of the municipality to legislate shall be confined to what? Municipal affairs. The adoption by a municipality of a charter under home rule constitutional provision does not, it is evident, render the people of such municipality independent of the legislature in all matters and delegate to them legislative powers to decide all policies concerning the affairs of government to be carried on in their areas. Such charters do not supersede or prevent the enactment of state laws of general concern in which the state has a sovereign interest and where the provision of such charters or of legislation enacted thereunder conflict with the general laws of this character, the state laws will prevail. This is especially true with respect to matters which fall within the purview of the what? Police power. So the guy out there, the reason why I went and found this, Alphonse, was for the guy Vince Vegra over there in the chat who is constantly whining and crying that had this wrong done to him, and I've had wrong done to me also. Okay, for any of you ignorant out there that don't know that I spent 5.5 years in the penitentiary at a very young age. I went in at 17. I didn't come out till I was 24. Okay, you do the math. I spent 5.5 years in there. And what happened was I was railroaded, and the reason for that was I was completely ignorant, and I just got chosen, whatever it was. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And Vince, I'm going to tell you right now, If you take that negative mindset, you flip it around to actually learn what due process is and law is, you're going to succeed instead of continue to fail. How did I mute Alphonse?
No, that was me. I did that.
Okay. Go ahead, Alphonse. You ready to share? Let me take mine down.
No, I'm good. Yeah, listen, the best way to really start to get a grasp on this is to start actually doing some state record requests. And you can go up on our group and pull out the stuff we ask, basically. Like go read your local, like we have what's called the Local Tax Enabling Act. That's what the local municipalities use to tax you. So if you go through and read that, you'll see that they can only tax you by way of, like I said, ordinance and resolution. Well, I know they're not law. Ordinances and resolutions are not laws that they can impose upon me. So right off the bat, we have a problem. And then when you actually read the subjects that they can tax, they're persons, transactions, subjects, also entities that have nothing to do with me. So then start sending a state record request in to your local municipality asking, please provide me the record that evidences your ordinances and resolutions apply to myself and my property. They don't, okay? And see what you get back. And you'll start to get your feet wet and you'll start to get a grasp on what these people are doing. And the pieces of the puzzle will start to click. You'll start to see the little pieces will come together for you. But it's important to understand that the municipality they're going to say that they're acting for the state. They're just doing what the state's directing them to do. That's the furthest thing from the truth. Nobody from the state's making any claim against you, okay?
No, they're not.
It's the local municipality that's doing it. It's the attorney that's doing it. And when you call them on that and say, hey, listen, I don't have anything but the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania making any kind of claim that these statutes apply to me. Only you guys are saying that. What evidence do you have of that? They're done at that point. They're not going to survive that.
Yeah, they are. They really are ignorant. They're totally ignorant of any. So I've had the blessing in my endeavors to deal with, what are we up to, about 15, 20 lawyers, Gary, that we're dealing with? One out of that 15 and 20 so far, what I say is competent enough to go stand in front of a judge and actually do his duty and job as representing someone else in a reasonable fashion. The other ones are dumber than dog shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them today, Matt, I'm not going to say his last name, that we were on phone call with as we're discussing my pleading. He said he's flat out said just exactly what Dr. Graves said. He said they're dumber than, and guys, get over it. He said they're dumber than dog shit. That's exactly
that all the time.
that was this attorney's exact words. He said they're dumber than dog shit. Their pleadings suck. Their motions suck. They don't know the rules of procedure. They do not know what law is. And this guy we're having a conversation with, he understands what we're doing and why we're doing it. And he says, all for it. So it's not everybody. There's people in good places, but you have to understand the principles behind as you move forward through procedure. We started out with the first video was the administrative process that we did, right? The 5 steps in records request, doing these complaints and state or federal criminal complaints and ideas like that, and then a lawsuit. Listen, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, when you write a pleading and you spent a good amount of time gathering the information to put what is called, it's called the well-written complaint rule, including your federal questions and all these ideas and the violation of your constitutionally secured rights, and include all the essential elements within each cause of action. What is going to happen is that you're never going to walk out of that room without a judgment in your favor, because you're standing on principles that those in vice cannot. Listen, there's absolutely no way that the chief Cyrus Ben for the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians is going to be able to go, well, I was granted the authority and a lawful rule to make Ordinance 2020-6B because of. He's not going to be able to substantiate that. Okay, Brother Gary went to the downtown here Tuesday in the federal courthouse, and they asked him for his vaccine passport. Well, now, guess what we have to do? This is something that was on a later deal because I've been working on so much other stuff. We've got 3 instances now where the United States court, the marshals, have violated our due process and our rights to access the courthouse. So now, guess what? It's no longer playing. It's no longer warning them. I have to make the individuals that are actually committing the crime. Now they're going to go. The judge made her order, but the judge's order is an administrative order. It's only executable to her employees. It didn't give you the right or the authority to deny my equal access into the courtroom. There was no law substantiating you're asking me of a vaccine passport. It's none of your business. I have the right to privacy. That's a substantive right. It's none of your business what I'm doing. It's none of your doggone business. But each and every one of these steps that we're talking about to get you to that point to where you have the confidence, and that's important because each little step that you do, when you do the initial records request and you get back the same information that all of us have got back and go, hold up, well, you're not even following your statutory code that requires you to be able to do this. Then you go, oh, well, and you talk to them on the phone, right? You call them up. Well, who granted you this thought? Well, it's been this way since I've been here.
How we do it. This is how we do it. This is the way we do it. Yeah. This is the way. Is it legal? Oh, I don't know. This is the way we do it. You know.
I'm just doing my job, Alphonse.
Well, like the sewer authority administrator, she got on the stand and I asked her, "How did I get on the customer roll?" By buying a house. When I bought a house here, how did I become your customer? And I asked her, please show me this billing process where you can go to the water company, get my water usage, and bill me for it. Because remember, they're creatures of statute, right? It's got to be in the statute. She couldn't find none, Brandon. She couldn't find any statute where it said that when I bought this property in Pennsylvania, I became a sewer authority customer. And she couldn't find anything that said when I bought this property, they can go to my water company and get my water usage and bill me. Can't find it in any statute or code. Do we have a color of law action here? Got a big color of law action here, okay? Now we're talking about how many zeros this is going to be.
Yeah, well,
they still send bills. They're so stupid. They keep sending bills. What are you idiots doing, okay? You already told me you don't have records. Here's the best part. They rely on the sewer certification to put you on the customer roll. When you go look at the sewer certification process, it states it must be on your company letterhead. So obviously, it's not for me because I don't have company letterhead. So that sewer certification process got nothing to do with me. But here's the best part. They don't even have the sewer certification. Hey! Oh, hold on.
Go get him, Ralph. I'll take control of this. All right, so I'll share this document real quick with everybody that's why Alphonse take care of that bad dog. So you will see here, guys, that this is actually Brother Gary's going down to the law library taking pictures. This was our beginning into figuring out how important American jurisprudence was. I was told by Alphonse that American jurisprudence was necessary, right? So what I had to do was go prove that what Alphonse stated was true. Don't believe anything we say. Go substantiate what we say. Go prove that what I'm saying and what Alphonse is saying isn't true. Okay? Go prove it, please. Don't come back with delusions or things that you think are happening. But in the world of Caesar, it must be objective-based. That means it must be written on paper. A constitutional guarantee. A constitutional right is a right guaranteed to the citizens by a constitution, and so guaranteed as to prevent, this is that level that Alphonse keeps talking about, constitution, legislation, administration, case law, to prevent legislative interference with that right. He's about to go whoop that dog. I seen that look before, Alphonse. I've had it. You poor dog.
Now here's the power of the American jurisprudence stuff. Listen, if me and Brandon write something down on a piece of paper and give it to the court, they don't care. It's our opinion. That's his opinion. I don't care about that. There's no reference, and you'll hear it. I've seen it from attorneys do it constantly. They'll state, "Well, there's no evidence of this, and there's no source of it." But when I state it, and I'm really just stating what's out of American jurisprudence. It's not me saying it. It's the courts that control them saying it. So now they have to listen to it. They don't have a choice. When it states that a trespass can only be brought by the owner or someone who's leasing the property, it's not me saying it. It's the courts that control them saying it. And when they say that a trespass, a statute can't criminalize a trespass. A trespass, there must be criminal intent for there to be a trespass. And when you went into the store to shop for food, you had no criminal intent. So then they can't bring a trespass action against you. That's not me saying that. That's the courts. That's American jurisprudence. That's the laws, the court sightings that controls them. They've got to follow that. So that's the power of having something like we call it AmJur. It's not me saying it. It's taking their own stuff, their own rulings, and shoving it down their throat, the lower courts. You're shoving their stuff right back in their face saying, look, it's not me saying it. It's the courts that have said this. Now, you tell me why this don't apply in your court. They can't. They can't work like that.
I'll give each and every one of you a little insider access before I post it on the telegrams. But what Alphonse is stating is unequivocally true. So the language within case law that you're going to find is they're quoting American jurisprudence. That's what they're quoting, right? And so this is some stuff inside our pleading, one of our pleadings, that provide substantiation that I'm not just saying it, I'm writing it, and you can see where it comes from. So Ordinance 2020-06B fails the constitutional scrutiny test. This is an order for declaratory judgment and includes the federal question. The executive order by Cyrus Bend, which is Exhibit 8, is unconstitutional on its face and as applied to the inviolable, exclusive, inherent, and inalienable right to possess, enjoy, use, and dispose of property, which includes and is not limited to personal autonomy and freedom of conscience. The order restricting these fundamental rights must be narrowly tailored to a compelling state interest as necessitated by the required strict scrutiny rule. And you'll see I'll go through here. I actually quote from the order, coverings may be fashioned from scarves, bandanas, suitable fabrics, is language so ambiguous and vague that no reasonable man or woman can derive from it a sense of medical safety. The ordinance, therefore, does not define the area of illegal conduct with sufficient specificity so that men of common intelligence need not guess at its meaning. Directly or indirectly, all the defendants acted in concerted conspiracy with the unconstitutional ordinance from Chief Ben Cyrus and discriminated against the plaintiffs. I need to put "the" right there. Well, I don't have to. So the first federal question we get to: when a political subdivision created by Congress, the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, chill, deter, and deprive constitutionally secured substantive rights of non-tribe members by ordinance, do the plaintiffs lose their constitutionally secured substantive rights? well, folks, this is called the boxing in, right? It's the boxing in. And does anybody get to chill, deter, and deprive you by color of law or state action or anything else and actually say they had lawful, legal, or authentic authority? No, they do not. They can't. And so when you understand these principles, when you understand how these actually work, and I'm of the opinion, I can't prove it. I say this when I'm of the opinion. I'm of the opinion that the legislative created Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians is nothing more than a municipality. And I'll say that because it has a territory and it has members. You're either a tribe member or you're a non-tribe member. And so it has people within its jurisdiction that are creatures of its statute.
Now, where does this stand? How far are you along you were with this?
I'm sending it this week. It's done. So I sent the tort letter, and look, we'll discuss this. We'll discuss this at a later date. I shared the little tort letter the other day, but actually, when you said you were on, me and Gary were doing a final proofread on this. It's done. I've got my
Cool.
5 federal questions. I've got my 7 causes of action, and it's done. And what's crazy, here's the crazy thing, Alphonse. Over 6 months ago, I told Gary at the 6-month mark we would mail this off. We'd give them ample time for administrative remedy. April 19th. This is not coincidence, folks. This has got a sense, okay? On April 19th, Brandon Sibley told Gary we were ready to send this off. April 19th is the exact date in which the district court in Florida made its decision. Hey, Alphonse, because there's a rule. The reason why I didn't just come up with the 6-month rule. The 6-month rule is one of the rules that you deal with for exhaustion of administrative remedy outside of the court dealing with the Indians. Okay, right. I didn't just come up with it. October 19th was when the or October 17th, whatever it was the date that the actual offense occurred. Okay, it's been exactly 6 months. 6 months to the day was April 19th. That day was when the judge in Florida ruled that the unconstitutionality of the CDC mandate. You can't get any better than that.
No, and our biggest flaw is no one reads anything. And the best way to start is if you get a little traffic ticket, a parking ticket, go read the statute, go take it apart, and go read the language and what it actually states and who it applies to. And then go try and challenge it. Go file motions to dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction, and start to get your feet wet. That's the only way you're going to learn this stuff. You know, it's like being a boxer. You can train all you want until you get in the ring and get punched in the face. It doesn't matter. You got to basically do this stuff and learn this stuff. And the only way to do it is you got to get in there and actually do it. You got to go throw punches, like we say. Go start throwing punches at people. I don't care how small it is. I don't care if it's writing a letter to your local school board or, start learning this process, start doing this stuff, because this is not just something you're going to have just for this dumb pandemic bullshit. You're going to have this for the rest of your life.
You will. And you will, because and this is one of the things that really opened up my mind to the property tax. Alphonse, I have 167 acres down in the swamp, literal swamp. We've talked about this, right? And that out in the middle of that swamp, guess what? Nobody's coming out there to do assess that property.
Might not survive.
Yeah, well, nobody. So my mind one day was thinking, why is nobody coming out here trying to assess this property? Well, because there's no roads, it's a by boat only, right? But if that right exists there, where does it exist? It exists everywhere, Alphonse. Yeah, do you need to go? We can shut this down.
No, I'm good.
We've gone almost an hour and 45 minutes. If you, I think the next one that we'll do, we'll go through causes of action. I think what most people don't understand is, especially within the Dr. Graves course, because I don't think he does explain it kind of, but the causes of action that he goes through are common law causes of action. That means these don't have statutes of limitations on them, folks. Do you understand that? By statute, if you use a statutory code in the defense of your rights, it has a statute of limitations on it. Okay. Now, constitutional violations, do they have statute of limitations, Alphonse?
No, to me, there's no statute of limitations on fraud, and most of the stuff they're doing is fraud. Okay, so when you've learned you've been defrauded, there's your cause of action time. There's no statute of limitations on fraud. Okay,
no, it can't be, because listen, it's taken. So inside my damages section, and I'll pull this up. I just want to show y'all this, guys. So, and I was very light on this, by the way, but what I have is actual damages. I do want to show y'all this. I'll share this with y'all. Okay. There's an actual damages section over here. If I can get my damn thing over here. There we go. Well, yeah, it's taken quite some time to get to this point, Gary. You're right. It has. We have common law, denial of service, negligent infliction. Okay, request for relief. Okay, so let's get down here. We're at page 25 so far. All right.
That's a short one.
Yeah, well, it is. It is. But let's get to the actual damages that these people have caused me. And this is factual. I can back it up. And I actually have spent double the amount of hours researching this. And so attorney fees are going to be associated with the declaratory and injunctive relief associated with the public denial of service at a public accommodation. So anyway, $125 an hour is the hourly rate for lawyer work. Okay, average rate. I put it at 200 hours. This is the actual damage that it cost me to research, learn, and then apply to this pleading, guys. Okay, and it's $50,000. That's 200 hours. The relocation of my vacation that was scheduled, it just cost me $1,000. My Westlaw subscription at this time has cost me $2,000. I'm even promoting Dr. Graves in here. My jurisdictionary cost is $250. Listen, guys, when you can declare and you can actually write out a timeline of events and you can put together these things, there's nobody in this world that can come back and say, Brandon, you didn't spend that much time. How many hours is associated with a law degree, Alphonse? 400, 600, 800, and they still don't know shit from Shinola?
At least, yeah. Has to be.
But anyway, that's accredited hours, right? You still don't get the knowledge that comes by just simply reading and growing in knowledge. All right, so Alphonse has to go, guys. We've run past our time limit. I pray that each and every one of you out there who has issues regarding your property, your income tax, or even criminal things being moved against you. And make no mistake, quasi-criminal isn't criminal. Where's
quasi-pregnant?
So when you see quasi-judicial, quasi-this, it doesn't exist. It's just make-believe crap. All right? Thank each and every one of you for supporting us. Listen, we've got Alphonse and I and Dr. Graves. We have things coming up where we're going to continue to collaborate because we have like minds, right? Alphonse moves with the passion and spirit of somebody that I just truly adore. He's not just a hearer of it. He's a freaking doer. And that is somebody that I really respect. And I pray that each and every one of you start spending the time inside the Telegram groups before you ask a million questions. Read. Read first. Please read. If you have questions about what you've read, those are easily answered. Please take your time, focus on a subject, learn one subject at a time, and what you're going to have that epiphany moment where you see it's all tied together. I promise you that. Alphonse, you want to close out?
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you whether you use Brandon's link or my link, doesn't matter. But I'm going to tell you, go invest $250 in yourself and go take the jurisdictionary course. And that's the best thing you can do for yourself and your family and your kids and your neighbors and everybody else around you, because that's going to teach you how the court systems work and how to actually file stuff. And here's the funny part. We're just talking about the attorneys. Brandon, I'm stunned at how crappy their paperwork is. Okay, their motions, they're so lazy. Even the stuff they file against you, they're beyond lazy. And when you read it, you go, "This looks like a 12-year-old wrote it." And now I've only been writing this stuff for about 3.5 years. Within my first year of doing this, my stuff looked better than most attorney stuff. Okay, now I smoke any attorney the way when I write stuff. They're not even in the same game. They're sloppy. I'm telling you, when you read their stuff, you'll be stunned. So don't think that this is going to be like, I got to spend 10 years learning how to write. No. Follow the basics in the Graves course. It's really no basic thing. It's really like a color by numbers. Here's this cause of action. This cause of action has 5 elements. Now let's prove the elements. Once you learn how to do that, you'll write better than most attorneys will write. Because most attorneys, they probably couldn't tell you the elements of certain causes of action. I'm telling you, they're sloppy. They're entitled. And they never see you coming. And once you understand the knowledge that they have, the legal stuff, you can do things that they cannot do and things that they will not do. And that's your power. You can go after judges. No attorney's going after a judge, okay? You can go after fellow attorneys, other attorneys. That attorney's never going after that opposing attorney. Doesn't matter how corrupt that attorney is he's going against. He's never going to do anything to hurt that attorney. But you or I, we could take him to task. We could sue him. We can go after him. That's your power.
And it's so simple that really, the first time I read Dr. Graves' course, when he said it's so simple an 8th grader can do it, what your and my problem is what we have learned so far. We're not children anymore where we're sponges. We have to unlearn the bull crap that we put in. Okay, that's what you got to fight against. You got to fight against your misconception, but the essential elements must be pled in order for all elements to be met for that cause of action to meet criminal or civil intent. What's called mens rea, right? The intent for somebody to violate. And I've got this one up here, which is a common law conspiracy. How many of you had this happen to you over the last 2.5 years? All defendants had a task to be accomplished, had an agreement on the object or course of action, to wit, to deprive the plaintiffs of their right to equal protection of the laws, specifically the right to access places of public accommodation absent of discrimination, perform one or more unlawful overt acts, and cause plaintiff damages that were a direct result of those acts. And so each and every one of you have had this happen to you who fought the mass vaccine or whatever. Every one of you have had this happen to you. It's a conspiracy. The people at Walmart joined up together to deprive me of my constitutionally secured right to property, freedom of conscience, and personal autonomy. Each and every one of you had this cause of action.
And once you do just the one lawsuit, I'm telling you, it's addicting as far as,
well, yeah.
Once you do one, you're going to go, ooh, this isn't that hard. Let me go do another. Okay, let me do another.
And we go back, circle back around. The fun associated with it, Alphonse.
Yeah.
Why does it become fun? Answer that for me. I'll give my interpretation thereof here in a minute, but I want you to tell me, why does it become fun?
Because it's sort of like you have all the answers, and the people that you're dealing with, they're clueless, okay? And at a certain point, you're going to learn that I could grab him by the nose and drag him around wherever I want him. I could lead him into this corner. Look what I'm going to do to him. I'm going to lead him into this corner, and he's going to go just like a dog following you with a treat. He's going to go right into the corner for you, okay? And then you go, now when I'm ready, I'm going to drop him on his head. I'm going to bring him up in federal district court. He's never going to see me coming. So it's sort of like, I know I got him from the start. So now it's a cat and mouse game. I'm just playing with the mouse a little bit, okay? I'm going to let him keep saying dumb things, giving me dumb things. And at a certain point, we're going to bring the adults in the room. We're going to bring them in.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And I look, guys, when I spoke as a child, I thought as a child, I acted as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things, okay? And so when you're dealing with a man that knows how to use language and use the written word, like what we do here, you put it in the record, right? And you start circling the horses, the wagons, and they don't know it. You're doing this. You're restricting down the whole time. You're going like this, and you go, oh, that's right. You committed criminal actions against me. I'll be doggone. I tried to warn you at the beginning.
It's in my paper constantly. You're not. What do you mean you didn't see it? You know?
I told you. I tried to tell you. Matter of fact, let's go back here. You flip back 100 pages and you go, the original document that I sent you stated unequivocally that you were violating my constitutionally secured rights.
And they just can't come in and say, well, I was just doing my job. That doesn't work. Won't work. Because that's not their job to violate your rights. They don't have a job.
It's not your job. It can't be your job. There's no way anybody can give you any lawful authority to violate somebody else's right to freedom of conscience, their right to privacy, their right to anything. There's no lawful authority that can be written on paper that says, by the way, I can violate you. And involuntary slavery is outlawed worldwide, folks. Worldwide. When you understand that principle, it's outlawed worldwide. You'll understand the simplicity of what we move forward with. So you cannot become an indentured servant, okay, or an involuntary slave. You cannot.
No, and like your physical location in the municipality doesn't make you their servant or their subject or their inhabitant. Like he said, that would be indentured servitude, violation of the 13th Amendment. You'd be their slave, piece of property for them to use,
That's right. So that's a violation. So we have violation 1, Amendment 1, 4, life, liberty, and property, 5, national due process, 13, involuntary slavery, and 14. It's the same ones over and over again, unless you're involved in the criminal case, and then you're going to incorporate, I think it's 7 and 8, right? Am I correct? Is 7? Yeah. But either way, what you have is the violation of your substantive rights. Guys, if you do anything, join the Telegram groups, download the free stuff that we have given. I have copied plenty of stuff, uploaded plenty of stuff. Alphonse has done the same. Alphonse has wonderfully written records request, wonderfully written tort letters, wonderfully written ideas where they're trying to run away, scurry like little cockroaches in the dark. Alphonse really does believe it in his heart of hearts, and he exhibits that belief through his words that he writes on paper.
I mean, it's fun because you're like sort of, listen, you dummies, here, let me teach you your tax code in a paragraph. I taught them their tax code in a paragraph. Let me tell you how your tax code works. Boom, boom, boom. Okay.
One of the records requests sent us back the Commerce Clause. I can't remember which one it was. It sent us back the Commerce Clause. Congress has the right to tax, impose duties, and excise. That's what they sent. That's what they sent us back, right? And so I had to define duties, imposts, and excises for.
Duties and imposts have to do with shipping. That's imports and exports.
We're talking about
what an excise, Brandon? It's a privilege tax. That's what an excise tax is. Remember we talked about when you register a business, they charge you a privilege tax. That's the excise tax.
That's
and then if you're using your property to do it, they charge you a property tax. That's exactly what a property tax is. But you got to have the excise first before you get the property tax. No excise, no property tax. That's really what it comes down to.
It is, and it's funny because once you tie in, you can see the bamboozle, Alphonse, and you're no longer worried about the bull crap. And listen, guys, look, Alphonse and I are not in the game of bashing people in different states. That's not what we're here for. I know for a fact Alphonse and I have been talking personally for 2 years. And what I want to say is that at one point in time, Alphonse stated to me something that shook me up. I think you were talking to Steve already at that point. You were walking out of the affidavit of facts. You were walking out of that mindset at that point in time. I was already in the federal courthouse, but I didn't know how to move the court, right? And I knew that people were scared of something, then it was called liability. I knew that. I knew that when I started writing the complaint process, the administrative complaint process, that they were scared of something. I didn't know where to go back and find what they were scared of. And you said, Brandon, you should have just paid the fee and moved the court case through. That way you could have won. And so I had to go back and reflect on why. And I went back and I focused on principles on my spiritual journey while you continued on with Steve and Randy and everyone else. But when I came back, the two principles met like this. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Alphonse took a different path to the same thing. The truth is, guys, that the creator has control over his creation. And I'm sorry, each and every one of you here is not created by paper. You're not created by statute. That means you have a substantive right. That means that your constitutionally secured rights cannot be deprived by color of law. And with that, my friends and sisters, we're going to close this thing out. Alphonse, I thank you so much for coming again. We'll see each other again soon.
Definitely.
And, you want to say anything before I click out?
No, I think really what we should do next time is go through a sample lawsuit and show someone how easy it is to actually do a lawsuit. Because now it's like Chinese language, you know?
I agree. And that's why I showed them part of my lawsuit.
Maybe we'll use your lawsuit. Maybe we'll go through your lawsuit.
We have two different lawsuits that we have written and we're filing this week. So, guys, I'm not just talking about this. Gary's already filed the property lawsuit with the taking of his motorcycle from 2 years ago. We finally learned enough to where we could actually push this thing forward. It's taken 6 months to get the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians lawsuit written. And listen, guys, I don't get to just go focus on my stuff. And you know this, Alphonse. What happens? What happens to each of us that teach this stuff?
I'm doing more. I think I'm doing more paperwork for other people than I'm doing for myself. Okay?
That's right. So we become the servants of others, and we focus all our time and energy elsewhere other than our own stuff. It's just what happens. It's the nature of the beast. It's not that I'm saying don't write me a letter or don't write me an email. I'm not telling you that. I'm willing to help. But nonetheless, we have two complete lawsuits. I know you're almost finished with yours, and we'll go through a sample, and what we'll do is we'll go through the causes of action, why they're there, the essential elements, why they're there, what the constitutional provisions are, why they're there, and what American jurisprudence has to say about them, and why our secondary resource. Okay, so the primary resource is the Constitution. The secondary resource is what? American jurisprudence. And that's the application of the Constitution. Okay, and so we'll do that on the next one, Alphonse. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to get a copy of some good legal stuff, just shoot me a private message in Telegram, and I'll get you some information on who to contact. Because, like I said, but the first thing I would tell you to do, go get the jurisdictionary course. Go take the jurisdictionary course. Start with that. Get the fundamentals down.
Yeah, and look, guys, listen. The jurisdictionary course took what it did for me. I'm just going to tell you for me, okay? I had all this knowledge. I knew what I was learning, and what it did was it tied procedural law and substantive law together. And procedural law is the process that gives us equal opportunity to discover and ascertain the truth. That's what it is. It gives both sides the opportunity to present the truth of the situation. And so if you don't know procedural law, or if you don't know what the rules of procedure are really there for, you think it's just there to walk in and get a default judgment or summary judgment and get something. It's not what it's there for. That's what it's there to give people notice of an action being presented against them and time to rebut it. And so with that, guys, I'm going to tell each and every one of you, I love y'all out there. Thank you, Alphonse, so much.
Thank you, Brandon.
Today. I enjoy each and every time we get to spend time together. And we're one day you and I are going to go crabbing down in Louisiana.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. As soon as I get that settlement.
All right, guys. Goodbye.